Welcome to the Inside Carolina podcast. I'm your host, Tommy Ashley. It is On the Beat. With that brings Ross Martin, Gregory Hall, and Luke Buxton. Of course, before we get started, I need you to take a second to rate us and review us. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple, iTunes, however you consume your podcast, and leave us a comment, good or bad. I'd love to hear your feedback. It's always helpful. If you have a question, leave it in the comments. We'll get that as well. Subscribe, of course, so to deliver it to your door when these hit the airwaves from our distinguished producer, John Siegley. Also on YouTube, you can subscribe and get the Inside Carolina feed. Tons of content there, press conferences, all that good stuff. We're recording this on Monday afternoon, so as I always preface everything, anything could change given the nature of these times. But I'll start with you, Ross. Let's jump right into the basketball discussion. Anthony Harris is back from North Carolina, still has a ways to go to work himself into game shape. But what does he do for this team?
Yeah, I thought Anthony Harris provided an energy and just an activity level that UNC had not seen this year. It was almost like shocking to see how aggressive he was on offense, just bringing the ball up, attacking, getting them into their sets. He had 3 assists, which was a team high, tied for a team high. Had that one drive and then nailed a 3 all in on a plus 10, all in 8 minutes and 29 seconds of action. I mean, it's early. He only played 9 minutes and really said he's not going to be playing 20, 25 minutes anytime soon, maybe in 2-3 games when he gets his conditioning back. But for the perimeter and what UNC does right now, I think he just adds that energy this team lacks and that teams have had in the past, but this team they just don't understand the effort, enthusiasm, and energy level they need. And Harris brought that. I was impressed. He's a great defender. He's not a veteran. He's only played 6 games, but he's what this team needs to kind of just add a different element to the backcourt with R.J. Davis, Caleb Love, and Kerwin Walton. Obviously, getting a lot of time now as well. So I was impressed, and I think it's gonna be pretty soon before he starts. I think you have to start him whenever he can get to that point of conditioning.
Who would he replace? Would he?
Yeah, that's a great.
Would he go in the shooting guard role and you sub out Kerwin, Leaky? What's the replacement?
I don't think he starts. I don't think he can start.
Yeah, I could see where he doesn't start and still plays 20-25 minutes. But, geez, man, he brings way more than Leaky does. I hate to say it. Leaky's 6'8" and does some things on defense that Anthony can't do. And Leaky didn't shoot the ball until the second half on Saturday.
Yeah, that's where I was. So full disclosure, I didn't watch the game live. I went back and watched the condensed version. I was on break for the weekend, but just looking at when I quickly looked at Leaky's stats, I was shocked on how many shot attempts he had. I'm looking now, he had 3, and he went 4 for 4 from 3. Last week?
Yeah.
A week and a half ago. That's why I don't understand as far as Leaky, and I don't know if I agree with you with saying that Anthony Harris brings so much more than Leaky, because I think Leaky at his best can be really good, and so can Anthony Harris, and I think them on the floor together might be the best combination of a lineup. But to your point with Leaky just not shooting the ball, sometimes he just doesn't show up on offense, and that's an issue, especially when this team is looking for offense.
And I think the way that Harris can drive and be aggressive and attacking is really good to set up Kerwin, who is a shooter.
Right.
Drive and kick, and I think you need that. Leaky probably leads the team in assists. I'm not right. He's had some really big assist games. So Leaky certainly distributes the ball effectively, but I don't disagree. I think there's a scenario where Anthony continues to come off the bench, and I think it'd be fine. But I just think he deserves starters minutes, I guess, is kind of what I'm trying to say. And I think he will earn them because Roy loves what he does.
Yeah, the tough thing is, can he run the point? He's a shooting guard. I don't know if he has the ability to run the point as Caleb and RJ might. But I will say 2 things that stood out to me. And you mentioned energy. I think he also brings just experience of what being a college guard is. 2 plays stood out. The first was on a 2-on-1 where Caleb Love took it, had the pass wide open, and went for that layup, that left-handed layup that missed. And then Anthony came down and he executed, hit the bounce pass, and they finished at the rim. The juxtaposition between those 2 plays and kind of Caleb and the experienced UNC point guard versus even if Anthony Harris really hasn't played many games in the Carolina uniform, he looked like he knew what he was doing, how the system worked. He had that backdoor cut for the layup. You never see guys like Caleb or Kerwin or RJ cutting backdoor and getting open for those shots. So I think there's an extra experience that he has that he provides this team as well. I'm just not sure where he starts in this lineup.
He's only played 6 games, but he's been with the program for 2 years now. So I mean, he's watched more Carolina basketball and been in those practices as an observer for a long period of time. Tommy, what do you think? Where do you think Harris fits in?
You know, I think he's got to have major minutes when he gets there. I do agree with Roy. He's not going to come back. I mean, it would be dereliction of duty to put him out there for 25, 30 minutes right now. He needs to build back up, and whether his knee is good or not, he needs to get in game shape and game strength and all that. But I agree with you guys. The way he played in just his short amount of time this past weekend, or when they did play Florida State, it was startling, the difference. And his level and his energy, we talk about bring energy and all that, his level of play versus everybody else is really what gets me. And I agree with Gregory. When Leaky's fully engaged, he's really good. He can be really good for this team. Now, he's not going to do what he did against Miami all the time. It's just not going to happen. But he's got to be engaged, getting deflections, getting rebounds, and all that. And that's what I think Harris will bring. Harris is not a on or off type guy, and this team is full of them. Harris is always on, and if anything, then Caleb Love and R.J. Davis can see that. Kerwin Walton as well can see that and say, hey, this is the way I've got to play if I want to play. And I think Roy rewards that, but I think Roy will be hesitant to play him major minutes. And look, there's only some minutes to go around. So Ross, and we can have this discussion. I asked Michael Brooker on the post game is where do his minutes come from? Somebody got to see it if he's out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the obvious answer is take a little from Playtech, a little from Leaky, and maybe Puff really takes a back seat. Not that he's getting any sort of minutes. And then honestly, you mentioned point guard. I think Harris could play some point guard. I don't know how that fits in the system, but I mean, he has the ball skills. He pushes it, unlike Caleb or RJ have shown to do. I mean, he pushes the ball in offense and gets them in their system pretty quickly. And you know how with UNC's offense, I mean, anybody can bring the ball up. You know, any of the 1 through 3 can bring the ball up. So I think he could take some point guard minutes just as a reserve. So you kind of take those 4 players, those 4 positions, I guess. You can probably find 20 minutes there. But then again, I mean, I like what Playtech's kind of done. He's limited. You know, when he goes up for those fast break layups, I mean, he's not slamming it through. And, I mean, I love the guy, but, I mean, he misses some that I think other guys can make. But Playtech's played his best basketball he's played in the last, 10 or so games. So it's a good problem to have. Gregory, what do you think?
That's where, like, when I was saying I don't know if Harris can fit into the starting lineup right now, because you're not going to sit Kerwin Walton. Yeah. Just because he's one of your only really shooting options. I mean, Caleb Love shot 6 threes and was 3 for 6, but that was the first time we've really seen that out of him against Florida State. So I think it takes more. If Caleb Love keeps turning the ball over the way he does, I think Anthony Harris's minutes come more from Love than they do Leaky or Playtech. And if I'm choosing between Leaky or Playtech, I think you take the minutes away from Playtech just because of the defensive approach that Leaky brings with his length. Whether or not he's on, he's still a problem for shooters. So I think if Caleb Love starts trending from where he from this game against Florida State, then maybe RJ sits more. But I think the minutes come more from the point guard position because, to your point, anyone can bring the ball at 1 through 3. And if he's showing that he can attack the primary and secondary breaks better than Love and Davis, then regardless if Roy thinks he's a point guard or not, which he said he's more of a 2 guard, then I think that's where he comes off the bench and spells those guys.
I don't think he's a 1, and I don't think you play him at the 1. I think if you do that, you kind of lose stuff he brings because the point guard has responsibilities getting back and all that kind of stuff. I think you play him at a 2 or at the wing spot, and you play him with Love or R.J. Davis. The issue with Playtech is, and we've talked about this a lot as well, and Luke, you can chime in here, Playtech is a matchup guy. He does not match up against a team like Florida State. Just doesn't. Okay, not many teams do. But he can match up against some teams on the schedule. So, if you bring Harris in, I don't think it's a start. I agree with Gregory. He's not going to start. Not right now. Now, he may, but we'll see. But how do you mix him in and who does he best mix with out there. I think, I think if you can get Caleb playing at a high level or at least playing hard like Harris does, then I think you got something for Roy Williams.
Yeah, it will depend on a lot. You mentioned matchups in the ACC. Leaky, Playtech, and Harris bring you three totally different looks. If the team's like Florida State was huge. If you need someone with more length, maybe you go Leaky. Playtech has some options. If you can get a 3-point shooter on the wing and he's hitting that game, he's also played a lot better defense this year, to mention. I think the interesting thing about putting Harris at the 1, I think Roy's thinking a little long term. If you're benching Caleb and you're taking out your 2 point guards, there's no development to be had there. Like, you got to develop these point guards. They're inexperienced. They need work. And the only way Roy's going to get there, if they want to be competing in March and want to have a chance to have some sort of run in the tournament, you got to have these guys right. So I think if you put Harris there, bench them, that doesn't happen. The development doesn't happen. I would think that you see 1 point guard emerging, and then Harris gets more time and like RJ Davis sits, or maybe Caleb sits. I also think it's interesting to mention, I'm curious to your guys' takes. I don't think Caleb and RJ play well together. When they're in the game together, it doesn't seem like they have chemistry. So I think it's going to be a deal where it's Caleb and Harris, and then maybe Caleb comes out and it's Harris and Davis, but I don't think we're going to see too much of Caleb and RJ on the court anymore with Anthony Harris.
And we didn't even see that much in Florida State. They might have played 2 or 3 minutes together the whole game. I think it's become a one or the other thing now.
Yeah.
At point
Well,
guard.
they're both ball heavy guys, right? They're both used to having the ball in their hands. I think Harris plays off better because he moves better without the basketball, Ross. I mean, look, Roy Williams has been hesitant to, like Luke said, really bench his freshmen because you don't want to ruin them for a good while. But I think if you had to pick one, RJ Davis would be my natural point guard on this team, and then maybe Caleb off the ball. But there's some debate there. Ross, what do you think?
So one thing I wanted to kind of say is, kind of agreeing with Luke. I think Caleb and RJ kind of had one of their best games against Florida State. So you don't want to hurt that confidence. Like, you want to keep developing them. You want to keep letting them build off this Florida State game. So to kind of like take a lot of minutes from one, I don't think is a smart move. I don't think Roy will do that. He'll obviously keep playing them a lot. But you definitely keep one at the point guard and build off this game. I mean, we hadn't seen Caleb make 3 threes yet. They both scored double figures. RJ didn't have RJ might have 1 turnover. Caleb had 4 turnovers and 1 assist. Sorry, Caleb had 4 turnovers and 0 assists from your point guard spot. That was a little concerning. I think we've touched. I mean, I don't know what else to touch on this rotation. I think we're kind of agreeing that you have to work him in at some point. Roy mentioned today on the teleconference that he is nervous as heck every time he plays Anthony, that every time he was in there, he was nervous about him getting injured again. So it's definitely going to be a slow process. We're halfway through the schedule. The schedule right behind me here. I mean, there's plenty of games left to kind of bring him in. So let's see. Wake Forest State. I mean, maybe by the Pittsburgh game next week, you'll see Harris getting up to like 18, 20 minutes. I think that'd be healthy. Just interesting to see how Leaky and Playtech's minutes change.
Here's your take on this. UNC, if you told us that RJ Davis shoots well, Curran Walton shoots well, Caleb Love shoots well, you get great production from Anthony Harris in his minutes, Garrison has 12, Baycott 10, balanced scoring, and you lose the game, right? Like, where did that go wrong in the formula? Where did they still need to improve to have
Florida State.
good games?
7 for 16 at the rim.
Yeah, and Florida State. Florida State shoots 99% from free throw line.
And they're really good. They're really long. And I didn't think UNC got the ball down low enough. Like, the touches, we're talking about guards, obviously. The paint touches, I thought they couldn't get anything down low. And I think that's partly because of what Florida State did on defense. But they have to go through a big man on every possession. Somebody has to get a touch. Right. When they did, you got the high-low working. Some good things happen, whether that draws defenders in because they know that Dayron, Baycott, and Brooks are talented and they can kick it out, or you get some positive production from Baycott and those 2 guys going to the basket. That's a big concern for the amount of post touches, Gregory.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with Curran Walton shooting the ball 13 times because, I mean, you want him, your best shooter, to shoot the ball a lot. But I think him and Love combining for 23 shots and Brooks and Baycott combining for 11 is an issue.
Yeah.
Like, just looking at shot volume, because Garrison was 3 for 5 and Baycott was 3 for 6, and they had 21 points, but they're 12 less shots, and Walton and Love have 25 points.
Baycott on
So-
the season is 6th on the team in field goal attempts, and
Yeah,
he's
that's an
Needs to
issue.
have the most. I think
I know.
he's been the most improved player.
Yes, he's
Man.
their leading scorer.
Yeah. Well, the problem is they can't feed them the ball. It just seems every time they get a position, it's a turnover. They can't find them. If you're going to load up the front court, you got to have the guys in the back court who can get it into the post.
And I think Harris might be able to do that a little better. It seems like he has just a knack for finding the guys. We'll see. We have such a small sample size for Harris. Like we think he's really good, but do we really know he's really good? Like we'll see. But I think maybe he's a guy that can figure out how to get the ball down low because Harris and Love have had trouble with that. I think Leakey's pretty good at that. And I think Playtech's good at that too. Playtech had a couple nice ones against the last game they played. Look at my schedule here. Syracuse.
Let's go best lineup 1 through 5.
All right, good start, Tommy.
Baycott, Brooks.
So 1 through 5. You're going backwards.
Go in
Oh
order.
my God.
Hey, Baycott could run the one.
1 RJ.
Okay.
Okay. No, you go your whole lineup.
Okay, 1 RJ. Right this second.
Mhm.
1 RJ, 2 Kerwin, 3 Leakey, Brooks, and Baycott. Right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Starting.
Okay. I'm gonna go Caleb. I'll go Kerwin. I'm gonna go Leakey, but I think in two games is Harris, and then Brooks and Baycott, and then bring Dayron in as the first sub.
Yeah, I'll go Love. I think Love has a higher ceiling. Love, Kerwin. I'll stick with Leakey, Brooks, and I'll throw a curveball. I'm going Dayron. I know you guys gassing up and talking big about Baycott, but I think Dayron, he still is not polished, but I think he's the truth. I think could be the best player on this team.
I think that he plays just as much as the other two as you just go seniority there. I mean,
Yeah,
Dayron's awesome. I mean,
yeah, it's tough.
Baycott shooting 62% from the field. Darren Sharp shooting 49.5. 67 from the free throw line, 60 from the free throw line. They both average 7.8 assists. I think Baycott is the most underrated guy on this team. And look, I like Caleb Love. I think could be really good. But let's be honest, he's shooting 28% from the floor. And he's got the most shots on this team by 31 attempts. That's why they're 8-5 right there. That's why they haven't beaten a really good team yet, right there.
now I said Caleb to start.
I'm RJ as well, by the way.
I think
care about my opinion.
I think it's a confidence thing for Caleb, and if you take him out, that's going to mess with his confidence. And I think it's worth at least giving him the starting title and then playing RJ just as much. But I just think he's a 5-star and I don't know.
I don't know if necessarily starting lineup, but I was just saying like best lineup on the floor, in my opinion, is Davis, Walton, Leakey, Dayron, and Baycott on the floor. I think Baycott I think Armando and Dayron on the floor together is a better combination than Garrison with one of them too. Just because with Baycott at the rim, he's highly effective, and then Dayron's ability to get offensive rebounds, I think, is when they're the best at the rim. Is Garrison maybe get better player? Yeah, probably at times. But I just think those two together on the floor, and then Walton's ability to get it inside is improved. And then I'm agreeing with everything Tommy's saying about RJ. I think he is a more calm and collective player. Does he have his turnover issues too? Yes. But I mean, looking at just the missed layups and missed chances at the rim, and this wasn't just Caleb Love, but I mean, he's 1 for 4 2-point attempts against Florida State. And I think I'd rather have one of the bigs attempt a shot at the rim than Love driving and taking a selfish layup or runner or floater. Like that is so frustrating to watch when he drives into a crowded paint with his 2 teammates and then the 2 defenders, and he's literally shooting a ball with 4 people in front of him out of control. That's why I'm RJ.
Yeah.
This is why this season screwed up for these guys, and you almost feel bad for them is because, and they've talked about it ad nauseum, but it's still the case. They're not used to playing college basketball yet, and Florida State has got grown men across their whole roster, and you've got Caleb and even Dayron. I mean, look at Garrison Brooks for that matter. I mean, 1 rebound against Florida State. I mean, come on. these guys, the freshmen, aren't used to it. That is why Anthony Harris is so important, I think, because he's used to it. Even though he's only played 6 games, he did not look a bit in awe or hesitant or nervous when he got out there. And I think that's why this guy's return is important to North Carolina. And sometimes you can learn by sitting. They say the bench is the best motivator. I agree about Caleb. I think he needs to be managed probably easier and better than RJ does as far as mentally. But at some point, you got to get it. It's got to click. And Carolina's 8-5, looking at a winnable 3-game stretch. Ross, you got scheduled there behind you.
Yeah,
but
we
after
got,
that,
Wake Forest, State, Pittsburgh, Notre Dame.
Pittsburgh's good.
After that, they got to win ball games, and at some point, feelings have to translate into production, and we'll see how Roy Williams handles it.
I think Champagne could be a problem for this team, though. We're just looking at that schedule with Pittsburgh coming up.
Is that Champagne?
Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh preview here. 3 weeks
I'm
away.
just saying.
All right.
You mentioned it.
One last thing. I can't believe Black didn't even score. Leaky Black didn't even score. I didn't know that. I'm looking at it now.
He was in foul trouble, though, wasn't he?
He had 4 fouls, 20 minutes, 0 points, 0 for 3
shots
from the field, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Dude, you've got to score. It's just so tough having your starter not score. You've got to at least hit 1 or 2 threes and a couple baskets, maybe get 8 points a game to be, to earn that starting spot. And isn't it kind of crazy? We all had Walton in there, which deservedly so, but at the beginning of the season, there were thoughts that, he may be in there for just 5 minutes a game here and there. And he's one of UNC's best scorers now, by far.
I could also see Leaky being a Draymond Green type player for this team and only getting 2 points a game, but having 3 steals, 4 blocks, 10 rebounds, 11
blocks.
You take that all day, though.
That's what I'm saying. I take that all day. I think his motor needs to be higher. I don't necessarily think he needs to be the guy to score because I don't think he's that great at it. He's shown glimpses. I think he just needs to be like how Anthony got brought in and this team elevated their game. In the same way Draymond did it for the Warriors when they were the peak Warriors. I could see Leaky having the same role. He's athletic. He's big. He's shown the ability to pass the ball. I think he needs to crash the boards more and put up those kind of stat lines. I don't think he needs to get 10, 11 points a game. He's not the natural scorer. He can take his shots and score when he needs to, but I don't think he needs to be taking guys off the dribble and hitting pull-up jumpers.
Yeah, he's not the natural
It would be nice if he could, though.
Yeah, of course, obviously.
Any points he scores is gravy, but this is something you guys need to ask the players and you need to ask Roy Williams is how difficult is it to get a guy to realize how important he could be if he never scores a point? Bryce Johnson if he started off hot, and when he was a freshman through junior year, when Bryce started off hot, you had a guy that was going to play that game. But if he missed 2 or 3 shots, he didn't do a thing the rest of the night. And for Leaky and Garrison, for that matter, these guys got to realize that even when they're not scoring, they are helping. And Roy Williams specifically mentioned Kessler against NC State. If you remember in the first half of that game, Kessler didn't scratch the scoring column, but made a huge difference. And that's why I guess it's tough to watch at times when you see upperclassmen that are, when the ball doesn't go in the basket, they're not giving you a lot else. And Luke, to your point, if Leaky averaged 5 points a game, 8 rebounds, 4, 5, 6 assists, and a couple blocks, you take that all day.
Sure, all day.
Can we talk about Walker real quick?
Should we do a read, Tommy?
Yeah, do it. I'll let you do it, Ross. You seem to be a Johnny T-shirt, sweatshirt guy.
Trying to keep us on schedule here. All right, man. It's getting cold outside, and when it gets cold outside, I throw on a sweatshirt. Got one here. I can't wear it for press conferences, but I'll wear it for the podcast. Giant T-shirt, sweatshirt. Giant T-shirt and giantt-shirt.com is your one-stop shop for all your UNC apparel, right on Franklin Street and online at johnnytshirt.com. And all Inside Carolina subscribers get 10% off with your 10% off discount code found for premium subscribers. Johnny T-shirt and giantt-shirt.com. They have T-shirts, jerseys, soccer, baseball, football, basketball. Get the new navy blue trimmed Mac Brown 90s football jerseys. I'm sure they have those. Stickers, posters, trinkets, anything you need for the tailgate at home, your office, your house. Great for gifts. You got a lot of birthdays coming up, a lot of birthdays in January and February if you time it 9 months out because of summer loving, Gregory. Read a book. And you got Valentine's Day coming as well.
Read a book.
Yeah. Had to
got
teach
pictures?
Gregory about the birds and the bees there. 9 months. Yeah, Giant T-shirt, giantt-shirt.com. Check it out. Your one-stop shop for all UNC apparel. They support us, allows us to use podcasts, so please support them and use a 10% off discount code for Inside Carolina subscribers. Tommy?
Yeah, let the national guys pay the bills. We'll be right back on the beat. That's Ross Martin, Luke Buxton, the young Gregory Hall, the apprentice Padawan,
Luke.
and I'm host Tommy Ashley. We'll be right back.
Luke's younger.
All right, boys, we are back with On the Beat podcast, recording Monday afternoon. Ross Martin, Luke, Gregory, and Tommy Ashley. Gregory, I believe you wanted to talk about Mr. Walker Kessler. I'll let you lead it off.
Yeah, 8 minutes, and he hasn't really played that much more since that stretch against the state game. And I saw people when I was scrolling through Twitter complaining or being like, the stretch between when Walker and Puff were in the game was probably one of UNC's worst. And I just kind of wanted to get y'all's opinion on Roy's intent to constantly play Walker and Puff together. Because I've seen that a lot, and I don't know if I don't really understand why that might be the case, other than they're both in the same spot conditioning wise. But I mean, that was a long time ago that they missed those games, and they should be back. And I think it'd be best to play them independently, which he does obviously do sometimes, but playing them together as often as they do hurts this team, and it doesn't help them at all. Hence why I don't think either of them are getting a lot of minutes. What are y'all's thoughts?
Is it a matter of just kind of how the rotation works when they just try to rest some guys and they kind of bring in the next? I mean, I don't know. I haven't noticed that, but I'm sure.
Change it.
Yeah. They're just, I mean, Kessler, I was really impressed with what he did in the first couple games. At times he had just so many kind of flash moments, but he's just not ready for ACC play in terms of his speed and quickness and strength. It just seems he's a touch behind. And look, you got 3 guys in front of you that are way better, way more productive. I would hope that Roy plays him when he can, but when it's a liability for the team, I mean, you just this is kind of a red shirt year in terms of just kind of preparing yourself, getting stronger, getting faster, becoming more comfortable with everything that's needed. And then, hopefully next year you kind of take that big step. But I haven't seen much from him recently that really makes me want him to play more.
Normally in a normal Carolina basketball season, you'd have games, and this goes back to what I mentioned earlier, you'd have games where they win by a lot and a lot of guys get some minutes. You get mop-up minutes. There's no comparison or no you can't get experience, like Sherelle said, without being inexperienced first. So I think what Roy Williams is doing here is trying to steal minutes for these guys somehow, some way, and it's been a detriment. Against a team like Florida State, any stealing of minutes is going to result in getting whipped in however short period of time. So I think that's what he's trying to do. You can't not play them because next year they're going to have to be a part of the team. I do think there's a valid discussion, though, and Luke, you can chime in on how you mix them in. In a normal year, Walker Kessler wouldn't get a second on the floor with Carolina with the bigs they have. But I think this year Roy is trying his best to get some because he's looking at needing this guy next year. And I think he's shown flashes, but I agree with what you said, Ross. He's not ready. Luke, what do you think?
Yeah, I go back and forth, and I think the Walker Kessler hype train starts and stops a lot this season. Like there was that one game after state. I think another one, I can't remember which one it was, where everyone was saying, this is our next guy. He's the truth. And then he goes back. I think that's expected with he's skilled, he's talented. He just looks very young. So does Puff. So I think it's a matter of mixing him in with the right guys. Put him in when he won't be a liability. I think when you put him in and surround, like whatever that lineup was with Puff, I don't necessarily think it's like, let's blame Walker for, his lack of talent. I think it's okay. No one's going to do that well in this lineup. Like this is just an inexperienced, poor lineup by UNC. If you put him in with the right guys, maybe combine him and Mondo or him and Garrison, you're going a little smaller, maybe put in Anthony Harris. Like I think they're good slots and when he will do really well. And then you put him in some lineups and he does poor. So it's about finding when you can put him in, and you really need him to play a lot more. And then just, being on the bench the whole game. I think, Tom, you hit the nail on the head. You want to get that experience, and you just got to find those pockets when you can. I think Roy's continuing to experiment to find the best times to put him in.
Is 4 bigs too much?
4 bigs that folks are expecting to play solid minutes, I think, is a little much.
But do you think with the rotation of like spelling guys, do you think Walker coming in and being that 4th guy, do you think it's necessary to spell Baycott, Sharp, and Brooks as far as rest wise, or is it just better to just put Leaky at the 4 if you don't want to? Like, that's my question. Is it better to have Leaky at the 4 and play small to rest 2 bigs at a time than to put Kessler in right now?
It's a good point, and I think it's on the similar lines of when Fedora did the 2 quarterback rotation with Trubisky and Williams. And it was like, just let some guy get in his groove. I think sports is all about getting in your groove, getting somewhat of confidence, and then being in the game. So I think I kind of, contrary to what I just said, I think that's a great point. Like if you said you 2 are the guys, you 3 are the guys, and you need to be productive for us because you are our option, and then getting more reps and kind of getting in that groove, I don't know, maybe that works.
What happens, Gregory, and I agree, Leaky's probably the better option now, but what happens if 2 or 3 guys get COVID, or 2 guys get COVID and they're out, and Kessler's got to play and he's only played 2 minutes a game to this point? So
then are you saying that that's why to get Walker Kessler at least 8 minutes just so that he's in the game enough? Is that your point there?
My point is Roy Williams is trying to get him experience in any way he can.
So if he's needed to be called on from a larger role, he can.
I would think that has a significant part of the decision making there. Ross, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think playing a little bit is fine.
I mean, he hasn't played more than 10 minutes twice.
Yeah, he's shown it. I mean, but he's shown flashes where you're like, all right, this guy should play more, but I think the opposite has been has happened more. So I think what he's kind of playing now, spot minutes here and there, is fine. I mean, Puff, another thing. I don't think Puff necessarily hurts the team. I think it's Florida State. We had an awful stretch, but he's got to make a shot or two if he wants to earn those minutes. He hasn't. I mean, when's the last time he scored? I don't even remember. He's not playing much at all, and it's hard to argue with that.
He hasn't scored since Notre Dame.
Didn't he hit his first 3? Yeah. And now he's 1 for 9.
He hit his first 3 against College of Charleston, and he hasn't made one since.
He hit his first college shot, which was a 3. It's crazy.
He's missed 8 in a row.
I don't mind the idea of having 3 big man rotation and then also kind of here and there going small with Leaky at the 4. I don't mind that because then you can play Harrison.
Yeah, that's fine. If you have Leaky at the 4, then you can play Lover, Davis, Walton, Harris, and Leaky, and then just it kind of gives up space inside, and you might be able to get more entry passes that way.
Yeah, so would you prefer? UNC's big men are so good that'll be hard to do.
Would you prefer, Gregory, that Roy Williams did the Coach K way?
Which is?
Play 4 guys or 5 guys, 35 minutes.
No, but I do think 9 is maybe too, like 9 or 10 is too many, because I mean, this majority of this podcast has been us trying to figure out the best lineup, where if you only have 6 or 7 guys, then that's not the case. So I don't know if 5 for 35 minutes, but I think, I mean, if you at least had 2 guys that were averaging 30 minutes that you could rely on the whole time, I think that'd be better than constantly rotating at 9 or 10.
What does Florida State do? Leonard Hamilton constantly plays 10 guys, 15, 17, 20 minutes a game. So, I mean, there's different ways to do it. The problem is like Luke talked about, and like we mentioned, and this is why the plus-minus deal is not a great stat to look at. You put Kessler and Puff Johnson in there with Leaky and 2 other guys that can't score. Yeah, I mean, you're going negative every time. So, right. I mean, that's why Roy Williams gets paid the big bucks. I do think he's trying to work these guys in.
And looking at minutes, he's close to what I said with having guys in the 30. I mean, Leaky and Garrison, who we know Roy trusts the most, regardless of numbers. Leaky's averaging 29.5 minutes. Garrison's averaging 28.5. Caleb and RJ are each averaging 26, and then the numbers fall off. I think Armando only averaging 22.7 minutes is an issue, and I don't really understand where that is. Sometimes he gets into foul trouble, sure. Like looking at total fouls, but he's only 4th on the team in total fouls. I mean, Garrison commits way more fouls than Armando does, which is why I have Armando and Dayron is my best big combination on the floor. But I don't know.
You mentioned Leonard Hamilton playing 10 guys for 15, 17 minutes, and they also run a press, right? They play really hard, high-intensity defense, and on offense, it looks like that's the same thing. That's my difficulty with the UNC team. I think it's kind of like you got to find a balance of both. You're either playing a lot of guys and you're sending them, I don't know if I can say the term I was going to say for this
40
podcast.
minutes of hell.
But yeah, just like the VCU old Shaka Smart style. And we don't really see that. So it's like a weird balance of, okay, continual rotation, no one's getting in a groove, but we have a lot of guys, we have a lot of fresh legs, but no one's really like, we don't see a lot of like traps and kind of, it just feels off.
Or the tempo on offense. Like if this team was running the way Roy wants them to run, then yeah, you're gonna rotate guys in and out more because they're running so much.
Yeah, it's just a weird balance of like they're not really running that much, but rotating all the time. I don't know. I think that's what makes Leonard Hamilton teams good is you play all those guys because they're putting the press on, because they're giving you defensive hell, and then Coach K teams is they're getting in the groove, they're high productive scores like. I feel like this UNC team just doesn't have that identity, and they're trying to find one, and they're kind of lost between the two.
Yeah, I agree with that. And for the record, 40 minutes of hell came from Arkansas and Nolan Richardson. That right there just makes me feel old, Luke, that you attributed it to Shaka Smart. Ugh.
I don't
Arkansas teams of 94 and 95. Yeah, it was probably before y'all's time. Ross, give us one more topic, man. I'm going to put you on the spot.
One more topic?
One more topic to discuss here on
let's go into football. Is that all right?
Yeah, we can shift gears. A lot of guys.
Yeah, so we had all the 12 early enrollees move in on Saturday. Ty Chandler has arrived per sources. So Ty Chandler, the running back transfer from Tennessee, is on campus, and we'll go through, all your January, February conditioning and spring practice that starts in, I think, March. Spring games in April. So you have an injection of talent. You're seeing, I'm putting together an article. It'll come out this week, hopefully, about kind of all the roster movement. You had a bunch of players leave. You have this injection of young talent, especially on defense. You had Ra Dilworth come in, Javari Ritzy, Keyshawn Silver. You have Kedrick Bingley-Jones now, who's getting healthy, and Power Eccles, Dontavius Nash, DeAndre Boykins. You have kind of the studs from the 2021 class on campus now with the other classes. And then Ty Chandler, kind of that one piece I think UNC needed was a dynamic running back. Hopefully for the UNC fans, Ty Chandler can be that type of player. That's what we got right now. So it'll be interesting to see the rotations we see at running back, I think, in the spring, because they're not going to play 4 running backs. You're going to play 2, maybe 3 running back by committee, and they have a bunch of options. Caleb Hood is also the name that many people think, the freshman quarterback from Richmond County, who's been playing running back at UNC. See how he figures in. He might be the guy who takes some snaps at running back. So I don't know, Gregory, you're a big football guy. What do you think about Ty Chandler?
I knew coming into this offseason that UNC was going to go out and grab a running back. When I was going through looking at who was in the transfer portal, Ty Chandler wasn't necessarily a name that I thought would be the best to go grab. And I don't know necessarily who UNC reached out to or who they were looking for. But upon watching his tape, and former IC intern John Bowman posted a video and called him mini Javonte Williams. I think that might be a little bit of a stretch, John, if you're listening to this, but I don't know. I think he could fit in well. He was successful at Tennessee. I mean, he was averaging, I think, career 4.9 yards per carry, and he is one of those guys that's looking for contact and driving through it. So I think obviously he saw what UNC's running backs did under Robert Gillespie and got excited and figured UNC would be a great fit. And I think it is a good fit. I'm excited to see what he could do.
It's going to be hard to replace Javonte and Michael. I don't think they will.
And I hope us and fans don't have these extremely high expectations to put them on Chandler.
forget that. Those expectations are going to be there, and it's ridiculous to even put them on people, but they're going to be the expectations of this guy.
Sure, but 1,300 yards might be a little
returning
much.
Returning your whole offensive line too. So
Yeah,
see if it's a plug and play type deal, Luke.
It's also important to mention, you look at his stats. I mean, you have 2 1,000-yard backs with Mike and Javonte, and then you look at his stats, and it's 630, 653, 456 in the last 3 years. And you're like, okay, that's a huge downgrade. But then you're thinking, he's playing for Tennessee, who's playing against Alabama, Texas A&M, Georgia, Auburn. Like, he's playing against SEC defenses with a chopped liver Tennessee offensive line. Now you get a returning offensive line. You get to play against, like Wake Forest and Virginia Tech now. Good programs, but nothing to the caliber that Chandler's running against. And also, I think it's good to mention that Chandler's a great pass protector. So if he's able to establish that veteran leadership, sit in the pocket, pick up blocks for Sam, and he can also go out of the back. He averaged 111 yards, or he averaged 6.9 yards receiving last season. He has good hands. He can get out in the flat, catch balls from Sam Howell. I think he's the perfect back for this offense.
That's a good point. I didn't think about receiving.
Just the veteran. They just need a veteran guy who can. I mean, he's okay. I mean, he's good as an SEC running back. He's going to be okay. And I think the fact that he's a veteran presence, they kind of need that guy. They just need another body, because I'm sure they expected Javonte to be back, going into kind of depth chart stuff. So they need a body. They got a body. And we'll see. I think it's what they needed. I don't think they're going to – I don't think there's any other position they really need.
Who's going to be number 2?
I think the defense
is DJ will be Josh.
I think it'll probably be Hood.
That's something I was going to ask you guys. Is
DJ's hurt too, so DJ's have not.
I think it'll be Hood. I think Hood will win that spot.
Well, I can tell you this, just from seeing Richmond County, Caleb Hood is a monster, and that was as a high school kid, so he'll get that strength and conditioning. But this is what I was going to ask, and I'll ask specifically you, Luke, is how does Chandler fit in? You've got these guys that have bided their time behind Michael and Javonte, guys like Josh Henderson, and British Brooks is a walk-on. I understand that, so he doesn't have any expectations. But how do you bring a guy? You've been sitting, you've watched these guys go, and then you bring a new guy in to jump in front. That has got to be tough, especially with DJ Jones likely missing spring, I guess. But how does it mix in? Because I think that part of it is Mike Brown wouldn't have brought him in if he didn't fit in the running back room. That just wouldn't happen. But how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mac Brown has made it clear that the best player is going to play on the field. I mean, look at Sam Howell. He comes in, Jace and
Cade Ford.
Cade Ford are primed to be the next spot. He gets a flip, and he's starting day one. Tony Grimes overtook, the spot of Patrice and whatnot. I don't think Mac has any reservations of, you've been here, you get a title, to the spot. Obviously, it's differences. This guy's a grad transfer versus freshman. But I think Mac's made it very clear that you're going to compete on the field. Whoever wins the spot is going to get the spot, and we're going to be behind, every single player. So I think it's going to be a competition. I don't think he's going to come in and say, you're, RB1 from day one. It's going to be who's going to win. Josh, do you have what it takes? Caleb, Kamaro, it's going to be a competition, but Todd probably has the upper hand right now.
This isn't Johnson County YMCA, This is college football.
Johnson County YMCA is no blood, no foul, man. We didn't need refs. We just
this is not parents complaining about playing time. This is best players going to play.
Yeah, and
parents still
Mac does really well. You had no beef with you looked at every press conference. Mike and Javonte all talked about how happy they were for each other to get a touchdown for the long runs or more carries. I think he does such a good job of building this kind of family culture that you compete. It's ruthless, but best man wins, and people accept it and root for each other.
Ross, last question. Any surprise they didn't bring in a defensive lineman? I kind of thought maybe those 2 Clemson guys might be in Carolina Blue, at least one of them this year. But are they satisfied with just a running back?
I think they're fine at they would have brought – this is what Don told me. They would have brought in somebody if he was willing to be a rotational player, because I think they got the pieces they need with Ravo Hasek, Tamari Fox. Miles Murphy was playing 30-plus reps. He's going to be a big-time player next year. Clyde Pender was up to that kind of 25-rep level. and then Kedrick Bingley-Jones, and you got the 5-star Keyshawn Silver and Jahvaree Ritzie. I think Jaleel Taylor kind of took a step. He got surpassed by Miles Murphy, but I think they have the bodies. So if they were going to bring in somebody, I don't think they could have offered him tons and tons of reps. But I'm excited to see what those guys can do. And Tamon Fox back, who's essentially a defensive end in this defense. So, and Tyron Hopper, he's back too. So they only lose, don't lose anybody.
Rara Dilworth is another guy that is listed as a linebacker, but he's more that Tamon Fox role. I feel like when he can line up on the line, play the 2 stance, the 3 stance, things like that. So,
well, he's like 200 pounds though.
So
yeah, he's a little small.
I think he's gonna play. He'll be like a linebacker safety hybrid.
Be more.
You think so?
You gotta listen to the Scoot podcast, man.
Come on.
Yeah, he'll do
He's
a lot of
he's
stuff.
gonna put on weight. I mean, coming to college. I mean,
Yeah,
but
he's gonna do a
got
lot of
Kamara
stuff.
with-
He will rush the passer, correct? But I think he's more of a pure linebacker than he is a defensive end. I mean, you have all linebackers line up there at some point.
True.
I'm the most excited about Ra and Jaquarius Conley and how Jay Bateman uses them.
What about Power?
Yeah, I assume he's gonna be good. You gotta there's a depth chart here with Eugene Asante and Kadri Jackson, of course, Gimmel. So
Yeah, the
think
linebacker room looks good.
Power and Eccles, Power and Ra are the linebackers of the future, but it's hard to just step in.
Are you guys ready to cover the hype? I mean, it's going to be ridiculous leading up to spring. You create the hype. Yeah,
that's all I did in the off season. You just gotta hype it up. Click this, click that.
Great point. We got anything else? We good? Everybody good here?
Yep.
Yep, all good. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been fun, guys. It's been On the Beat podcast, InsideCarolina.com, sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt, JohnnyT-Shirt.com. And, of course, support them and get 10% off your order. Gregory Hall, Luke Buxton, Ross Martin. I'm Tommy Ashley. It's been On the Beat. Thanks, boys.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.